nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hello and welcome to the Managing Madrid podcast. We're recording this about, 10 minutes after Real Madrid beat Stuttgart at home in the Champions League opener for the 2024-2025 season at the Bernabeu. I'm your host, Kiyan Sobhani. I'm joined today by Siddharth Ramsundar and Sam Leverage, who, as you can see if you're on YouTube right now, is at Estadio Santiago Bernabeu. He covers and has been covering and continues to cover and is covering tonight Real Madrid up close at the Bernabeu for Managing Madrid as press. Sam, I'm going to start with you because I know you can't join us for too long before you go to the press conference. How you doing, man? What's the vibe?
Good. No, I moved inside because outside the German fans are all still here and having the best night of their lives at the Bernabeu, I think. So they're definitely enjoying it. But yeah, it was a strange game, right? It was one of those that the feeling in the first half wasn't so good, in the second half a little bit more comfortable, but perhaps not quite the easy game that some of us were expecting coming into it.
Did you make it into your seat in time for Mbappe's goal?
I didn't go anywhere at halftime, so I was quite lucky. But there were a few people around me who had gone to get their sandwich and they came back. And was it 20 seconds? I mean, it was, and nobody saw that coming, did they? After that first half, you thought, I can take my time, I can get a drink, I can get my sandwich, and I've got all the time in the world. But for it to happen quite so quickly was a bit of a surprise.
Sam, what did you feel was like the noticeable improvement in the second half, if you saw one? I mean, certainly they came out of the gates a lot better than they were in the first half, and then Stuttgart got momentum, they got a goal, and then they put the pressure on. Did you feel like there was something tangible you could measure? Like if Ancelotti reveals his halftime team talk, what would it be?
I'm not sure it's so much tangible. I think the big thing for me was the difference of having Eder Militao on the pitch, which isn't to say that Eder Militao was amazing and changed the game, but just having him as a central defender in that position made the defence a lot more solid, which meant that the midfield was a lot more stable and could kind of dominate that battle a little bit more. And I think the first half we saw a lot of Stuttgart winning that midfield battle because the Real Madrid midfield wasn't there. Jude Bellingham was more of a forward, Fede Valverde and Tchouaméni were more defenders than anything else. So we kind of end up with that very strange balance, and Stuttgart were just going over the top every time and causing problems. So I think having that balance, having that structure of having Militao back in there really helped to then release the midfield a little bit, to give Bellingham a bit more freedom, to let Tchouaméni kind of operate a little bit more, distributing and things. So I think that was the big change at halftime more than anything else.
Before you hop off and leave us, can you just talk about the atmosphere and also just everything? I mean, being in the Bernabeu again, obviously quite a bit about the Bernabeu right now with Real Madrid releasing the statement that they're going to postpone a lot of events. Looking into the sound issue, what was it like tonight?
So that was a good atmosphere, but there were a lot of away fans. I think I saw an estimate of 15,000 Stuttgart fans in Madrid. Obviously, not all of them at the game, but a lot of them were right next to us in the press row. The whole section next to us, which is usually full of Real Madrid fans, was full of Stuttgart fans, being very noisy. They had the away end all sold out, a little bit more than some of the allocations that Real Madrid usually give. And then there were Stuttgart fans kind of dotted all over the place as well. Really, I mean, this was kind of one of the biggest games in their history, right? So it's normal that they're going to be there in big numbers and things. Just as I was leaving from outside, the Stuttgart fans were singing their anthem, and Real Madrid are just turning on the speakers and the loud volumes to show the highlights and try and drown it out a little bit. Yeah. But a very good atmosphere.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. It's good to be back at the Bernabeu for Champions League nights. This is our competition. So very classic Real Madrid performance tonight in that we didn't play well for large stretches, but got the W anyway. A lot of firepower in that attack. And I'm curious, Sid, like if I were Stuttgart, I mean, I thought Stuttgart played really well, right? Like they took the game to us. In part, that may have been their downfall in some sense, because as well as they attacked, and as much as they punished us, and made us make mistakes, turn the ball over with their press, they left their line so incredibly high that despite not playing well in the first half, we generated some good chances. And in the second half, that Tchouaméni pass just killed them. And then Rodrigo finds Mbappe. And then we had some momentum. It is kind of interesting to see how teams approach Real Madrid. And I kind of feel like that if you do play that way and put a high lineup, you might be just playing such a risky brand of football. Because even if Real Madrid are not playing well, you give them that opportunity to have one or two breaks behind a very high line. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get the W. But I'm curious to know what you thought of the way Schalke approached it and also how that affected Real Madrid.
I mean, Stuttgart, not Schalke.
What did I say? Schalke? Oh, I was watching Raul Schalke compilations this morning. That's why.
It's funny, though. Someone mentioned on Twitter, like, you could replace, other than Bayern, every German team we've played for like 2 years, it's the same game again and again. It's like we play like trash. We give up 4 chances to the high line. Like they press us, they hold their Bundesliga high lines, and they look smart for it for a half, and then we score, and then the dream is over. And this felt like another one of those games. And honestly, like, it just felt like more of a caricature in many ways. Like, it felt like a bigger caricature than the final, which was already like a meme of a game when you go back and watch it. Like 3 times they're hitting the post, just ripping through us, and then we somehow win. This was like that, but I feel like Courtois had even more work to do. And I can't fault Stuttgart for how they approached it. I think their approach was good. Because we're a weak team now. You want to attack us. You want to test our build-up in the first 2 phases. You want to hold that high line. And our attackers aren't fully cohesive right now. So you can get away with it, as we saw at points, but also you can't get away with it, which is why we won. I think it was a classic case of talent bailing us out. When we are more cohesive, we'll make teams like this look dumb. But I don't think we made them look stupid for holding a high line today. I don't think we made them look that bad.
I actually have little to complain about from our performance in the first half from an offensive perspective. I thought where we could have been better offensively was our finishing, some of our final ball. Like, you think back to Rodrigo cooking multiple players on the wing, doing some incredible line breaking work, but that final pass, so that final shot let him down. Mbappe bursting past his man, the shot lets him down. Or there was even 1 or 2 where he overthought the situation, held on for the ball onto the ball for too long. Fede Valverde, this great ball carry. He wins the ball, carries the ball in the first half, and then a pass to Mbappe would have been a goal, but the pass gets intercepted. There were moments like that. I was like, okay, fine, that'll come. Where I took more issue with was our defense. Sam, you pointed out like the fact that Militao coming in the second half helped a lot because it shifted Carvajal to right back, and then Carvajal also contributes a lot as a two-way right back, right? And that helped us a lot. Vasquez really struggled in this game, and I actually forgot that Militao may have been able to recover and come in the second half. My mind went to like, wait, how bad is Vallejo right now that we have to play Carvajal at center back? That right half space between Carvajal and Vasquez was so vulnerable, and Vasquez not playing well and Carvajal not being comfortable in that position, and I don't blame him. And I mentioned this at halftime. There's a lot of revisionist history with Carvajal playing center back. He's done it like twice. He hasn't looked good there. And I think we just call it heroic because he's playing there, but really it's a far from ideal situation. So that helped tremendously in the second half. So we didn't deal with the press well. I didn't like the way we tracked runners into the box. There was that one that Courtois had that miracle save where Tchouaméni just ignores the player who did the 1-2 past him. Courtois, man, was unbelievable. I really don't know where Real Madrid would be without him. Lucas always says when Courtois is our best player, it's a terrible sign. And that was the case in the first half, I thought. Yeah, I kind of left it open-ended, but Sam, just jump in.
Yeah. No, I was just looking at the stats. I think it was he had 1.44 XG on target, whatever that stat is. The expected goals once the shot, kind of where the shot is actually positioned when it gets to the goalkeeper and things. So I think that says a lot about Courtois. Most of that came in that first half. I mean, the goal, he couldn't do anything about that. It was point blank range from a set piece. Yeah, I mean, Courtois was exceptional, and I mean, kind of this talk of Lunin and kind of the the debate of, okay, how do you keep Lunin happy? Do you give him minutes in maybe Champions League group stage games like Stuttgart at home? I think this is kind of where Courtois shows that he has to be starting every game, because Lunin is a very good goalkeeper, but maybe one or two of those chances don't get stopped by Lunin. So I think that kind of backed up that argument, and Courtois was just the best player on the pitch by a distance. And when you talk about kind of the salaries and things that Mbappe, that Vinicius are earning, if you're Courtois, you could feel within your rights to go and say, I want a little bit more money, please.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. What did you make of Bellingham's performance?
I thought he really kind of dived into it, considering he'd been out for quite a while. He didn't hold back at all. There was no kind of resistance, no nerves or anything like that. He looked really up for the game. And I mean, was it 80 minutes he lasted before he came off? I thought he kind of kept up those fitness levels. You couldn't tell that he'd been out for a month. And also, we forget that this is still only, his third game with Mbappe and the team, with this system, without Toni Kroos next to him and so on. So I think we forget that gap has really affected him perhaps more than it would affect some of the other players. And I think he did quite well to integrate into that quite quickly. And I'm looking forward to him kind of building up a bit more momentum in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
I was really impressed.
Yeah, go for it.
I was just really impressed by him. I'm a little skeptical about him in the 4-3-3. Like with Kroos gone, I'm skeptical those three have enough. And I thought he did almost nothing wrong today. A couple of moments where it was maybe a little awkward. He had like one time through ball to the left back that was off. I remember when I was like, Kroos would never have messed it up. But really good getting forward. I thought the amount of ground he covered was ridiculous. I don't think it's sustainable either. Like, he and Fede are crashing the box, and then on defense, they're also defending the box. It was really impressive, especially in the second half when we switched to the 4-3-3, had Militao and him and Fede it felt a little more loosened up. Just loved his performance, and I feel like he completes the attack. I don't think the attack is that dangerous without someone who can head the ball, or someone who can receive back to goal. And we don't, like, Rodrigo, Vinny can sometimes receive back to goal. Neither of them can head the ball. So I thought, like, he really filled in the gaps. Like, now if Carvajal is playing a late cross, or Rodrigo, you have someone who can actually head the ball. It just feels stupid to cross it with Vinny and Mbappe, and it's also predictable when nobody can head it. So I was really, really impressed. And I'm glad he looked so good physically. Just, like, it was really refreshing that he came in 100%. We needed a lot more of this from him.
I mean, just given, because Endrick came in for Bellingham in the second half, just given the amount of ground Bellingham covers compared to Mbappe and Vinny, plus the fact that it was his first game back, to me, that could have really been the only explanation of him getting subbed, because he was our best player, I thought, best outfield player. I thought he was one of the bright spots in the first half where we really struggled. The amount of ground he covered was incredible. It continues to be incredible. Apart from, you mentioned that pass to the left back, I don't remember that one, Sid, but his very first pass of the game in the second minute was intercepted. And then he had another moment in the first half where he didn't track one of those Stuttgart chances, one of the flurry of chances that Stuttgart had early. It was in the second minute, I think.
Well, we're having him defend now in the box, like, more than last season. This is a harder role than, I hope people realize, the 4-3-3 that we're asking from him now basically requires him to defend more centrally and deeper than in the wide 4-4-2 last season. And he still has to crash the box. And we don't even have a Joselu, so he definitely has to crash the box all game now.
Yeah.
I think it's a hard role. Like, that looked, my main concern watching that, and even Fede to the same degree, was like, wow, you guys are doing it all, but you have to play a style that doesn't require you to just keep making the runs into the box every single possession, because on defense, they're going to have to track all the time. Like, we saw that today with Mbappe being who he is on defense. It was really jarring also to see like Fede and Jude running bolting all the way, cutting the lanes, and then Mbappe is just like jogging right in front of them. It was Sam, did you see that on the pitch? How does that look in person?
Yeah, in person, it's quite spectacular to watch them bomb down the flanks. But I think that was my worry as well with Bellingham, was, hang on, Jude, don't get too carried away. You're just coming back from an injury a month out. Don't overdo it. Don't have a setback, because, yeah, like you say, Sid, his game doesn't have any limits. So there was one time where I think he was kind of ran to the byline and just went down slipped and went off the side of the pitch, and it was just like he just like laid there for a second. It was like he's clearly exhausted, but he's still going to go and keep doing this for another 60 minutes, and he did. But it's just the physical demands of doing that, and to keep that up all season long is going to be the challenge. And you have to think, when does that come? Does it come through rotation and resting him? Does it come through changing the system slightly so that he doesn't have to do that all season long? But otherwise, it's going to be a huge demand on him physically as well.
I think that's the worry. We don't have a system where we can replace a guy who can head the ball. Like that's just a talent thing, and I'm really worried in that sense. And Brahim gone for 3 months. He was the one guy where like he can't head the ball, but he's so good at everything with his feet that you hope he can approximate what Jude offers on the net. And he's gone 3 months, so I'm really worried about Jude now. Like, I don't think our attack is going to look great in big games without him. Like, I think the Rodrigo, that front three looked better because you had Jude arriving today.
100%. 100%. Like, this is the fact that we even generate as much as we did came down to him pressing a lot, him carrying the ball, his through balls. And of course, Rodrigo also was dribbling, created quite a bit too. I'd be very curious to know what this looks like in 8 years. Like, is it just, I feel like this is just who Bellingham is. Like, he's going to run himself into the ground because that's his profile. Like, that's what he does best. It kind of reminds me of 2000, during the Champions League three-peat under Zidane. Modric was covering so much ground because the scheme was so chaotic. Like, it was, Casemiro was in the box. You never knew where Isco was. Cristiano was not really playing much defense. Ramos and Varane are holding a high line. Then Modric is the last man back sprinting. And then 10 seconds later, after he wins the ball and stops a breakaway, he's putting a dagger ball into the box. It's kind of like that. And before that, Di Stefano. I'm not old enough to have watched Di Stefano play apart from massive highlight packages and going through and watching games in the 50s for my book. I'm sure Endrick knows way more about Di Stefano than I do. By the way, that's the greatest, that's the best meme. We got to admit, like, this running bit of Endrick, Bobby, and this is very good. This is one of the few good things that's come out of the internet in the past 12 months. It's just last year, by the end of it, Bellingham was so gassed, and that's the concern, right? Can you sustain it? This is like the first game back he's playing, and it's just, it's a lot to demand of him, especially with all the injuries and, Tchouaméni just coming back, Camavinga still out, Brahim now out for 3 months. These are all players who can help alleviate some of the defensive burden, right? It's going to be tough.
I'm going to have to jump off now, Kian, but just one thing before I went, was thinking about that same kind of thing of who is Jude like, and the one that stood out to me, not from Real Madrid, but the other side of Madrid, is Antoine Griezmann. That kind of role of Antoine Griezmann in the Diego Simeone system of, he's the forward, but he's also the attacking midfielder, but also the fullback when he needs to be. And that's a little bit of what Jude Bellingham was doing tonight, with kind of those runs up and down the flank to help out defensively, but also to then be in the final third trying to get on the end of things. And that's going to be the challenge for him, I guess. But I'm going to go and try and catch Carlo and leave you guys to it.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much, man. Great chatting.
Thanks, guys. Speak soon.
If you guys want to, so Sam's going to head down to Carlo Ancelotti's press conference now. And if you want to see those Carlo quotes, we'll probably discuss it on the podcast, and we're just probably looking them up. And I think the other Sam is tweeting out the quotes on Twitter, on the Managing Madrid Twitter account. So we'll take them as we go. But the full quotes are always posted on managingmadrid.com, where you can see a ton of other analysis. You can see the player ratings. Sam Leverage, who was just on the call, literally already wrote a piece before he joined a podcast and published it. That's legendary work. I also did want a quick segue to something else, and then we'll come back to the game. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Moji Mates, moji-mates.com. You can see it on my shirt. Today we're rocking Toni Kroos, 8 different versions. We got Toni Kroos Germany, Bayern, and then 6 different iterations of his Real Madrid days. You can see the evolution of the jersey. You can see the evolution of the font. Toni Kroos are rocking today. I got enough of these now for to wear a different one every day per month. Really cool stuff. And you guys can get a discount if you're a Managing Madrid listener. So MM15 off Did I get that right? I'm gonna just put it on screen so I can make sure I get it right. Yeah, MM15 off for 15% if you're a Managing Madrid listener. It's on the screen there, moji-mates.com, MOJI-MATES, moji-mates.com. Use code use code MM15 off. Check this out. Look at all these cool shirts they have. Like any of your favorite players are on here. You can go down to the player section, pick your favorite player. You can get shirts, shorts, stuff for your kids. They got a Di Stefano laptop sticker, which I'm definitely going to get. So yeah, super cool stuff. MM15 off for 15% off if you're a Managing Madrid listener at moji-mates.com. Sid, I wanted to talk to you about the press. We started off this game pressing pretty aggressively, and that was interesting. I mean, by the end of it, it kind of tapered off if you factor it out. We allowed, I think it was 12 or nearly 13 passes per defensive action. With Stuttgart, they had 8 passes per defensive action. So they were much more aggressive. But it's interesting because we actually conceded a few chances, not only in this game, but also the Real Sociedad game, where we just decide to press randomly and we don't have to. And we just get carved with 1 or 2 passes. I'm curious to know, you famously once said back in 2000, was it 2021 during the podcast 21. We did in LA, 21, where you said Carlo Ancelotti will stop this pressing nonsense. And he did shortly after you said it. What do you think is going to happen here? This is a unique situation, by the way. It's unique partly because in past iterations, Ancelotti hasn't had to have the quote unquote problem of having 2 players who don't defend and attack. Because Benzema and Bellingham are defensive workhorses and Mbappe is not. So what's like the best solution you think when it comes to securing our defense?
I don't think we've ever pressed for what it's worth as a club, like in our history. I think people need to first realize that. I don't think we've ever, like when you compare it to the best pressing teams of other teams, we press maybe for 20% as long as effectively, even in our best like defensive seasons, our most proactive seasons under Zidane. So that people expect it to work well is like always surprising to me. Like as fans of this club, this is the club where the rich players like kind of hang out on defense and then figure it out on offense, if you can't tell. And so I don't expect the press to be great. However, it is shocking just to watch Mbappe sometimes, like to see Jude and Fede track so diligently. Even Rodrigo and Vinny, even when they're not great, they track diligently. And Mbappe, he just doesn't care. Like even Cristiano wasn't like this from what I remember. Like I remember Ronaldo, fine. Ronaldo was lazy like this. And Benzema, I should caveat and say, like, yes, he could defend the angles well, but he didn't always choose to defend intensely. He chose his moments well. And that's what I want to see from Mbappe. I think if our press is going to put it together this season or ever again, while Mbappe is around, he needs to decide that he's locking in for just 10 minutes a game. The problem right now is it seems he's decided I'm locking in for 0 minutes on defense. No matter what happens, I am never locking in. And that's just not the right attitude. It's also something the coach needs to figure out because under Zidane, when he came in first as coach, I always point to this moment when Ronaldo tracked Jordi Alba. He swapped wings with Bale and tracked Alba into his half in the first Clásico under Zidane. It's a famous moment. I don't remember if it was minute 28 or 38, but it's happened. And I feel like Mbappe is going to need that type of moment when a coach comes in and says, hey, like when we want to press or when we're trying to defend when it's 0-0, everyone defends. Once we're up, I don't care. And right now it's not happening. So I don't know how that's going to play out. It's definitely awkward. But the fact that like he doesn't try on any sequences feels like it won't continue forever. I feel like at this club we'll convince him otherwise.
There are probably one, maximum 2 situations where I would want Real Madrid to press, and that's it. And this is the point that's very important that you just made, is that Real Madrid are not a pressing club, generally speaking. And so to flip it on and off like a switch is extremely difficult to do. What we have been very good at, generally speaking, has been the counter pressing. But the actual pressing, not good. And I took note of several sequences where we just were pressing aggressively and it was to our downfall. The second minute, and the 8th minute were two where we just got annihilated in the first half with an aggressive press. And Stuttgart nearly score or get a great chance. And so my thing is like, you don't have to press. There are a million different ways to play football. Everyone's different. Do whatever you want. But pick something. And if you're in between pressing and not pressing, it's just a really, really bad place to be defensively. But yeah,
I get why they do, I guess. Like, if we can blow a team like Girona, like when we went to and destroyed Girona earlier this year, I get why they do it. Because if you win the ball back like twice, our players are so good, you could be up 2-0 and the game's over. You kind of want to give yourself a chance to end the game early. But it's just weird to me to see that like 10 of the guys are pressing and one guy's like kind of not, though. I think even more than anything, like,
yeah,
like there are sequences where, yeah, we cut off every lane. I'm saying like when most of the team cuts off the lanes and Mbappe, because he's like trying not to run, gives it away. And you know, that's I think the hardest part for me right now. Like, even if he had the same intent, I'm cool with pressing 10 minutes a game. Maybe Xabi Alonso changes it in the future, or some young coach comes in and convinces him. I don't know if Carlo is the coach who's going to go tell Mbappe to defend. I just don't see how this works in the biggest of games. Like, it's going to be tricky. It's just like, was Ronaldo like this, Kian? Like before Zidane, 2016, those years, I remember he was really, really bad defensively. I mean, even going to that final, the first final under Zidane, the equalizer we conceded to Yannick Carrasco in part was because Ronaldo chose not to drop back into the mid block. But at that point, at that age, I wasn't expecting him to. But how was he before 2016? And I guess even under Zidane, we saw like he wasn't going to be the most intense defender. But it feels like Mbappe is like trying to break a record for like worst defender ever.
Chris, and there was like maybe one or two sequences where he pressed a little bit today, but it wasn't. Look, yeah, we know we don't have to talk about it. We knew that this was a thing about Mbappe. He has two weaknesses: aerial presence and defense. Ronaldo, Ronaldo had like moments that he would work hard relentlessly defensively, and they typically came in situations where ego was involved. And if that makes sense, like someone stole the ball from him or was giving a hard time, and he's like, I'm going to get you. And he would hunt him down, and he would win. He would actually be good at it if he needed to. I mean, part of Ronaldo too was that a lot of this is by design. And I think, you know, fans have to understand that too, especially as someone like him evolves into his career. You want him to conserve energy so he can focus on pouncing the other way. But yeah, that needs to be figured out. I'm actually less worried about our offense than maybe some other people are, and more concerned about our defense at this point.
See, I'm the flip.
The offense will come, I think.
I think the offense will come in the sense that some of the sequences today, 6 months down the lane, I was like, we'd be ripping through them. They just don't know how to play with each other yet. No question. That's like really obvious in a lot of sequences. Even like Jude made some good passes, or Rodrigo would get a good dribble in and just not lay it off the right way. You could tell there's something there. I'm still worried about build-up, I should say. The press, I feel like Mbappe could stay this way the rest of his career, not even press for the 5 minutes a game we're requesting, and we'll be fine. We'll figure it out because he's so threatening offensively. And I thought, if anything, today, the lack of cohesion, but the fact that we still created some threat was impressive. Like, it just speaks to how dangerous they are. If it's ever like a 2v3 with Vinny and Mbappe, like, you just don't know what to do. Like, do you retreat to the box and give them space, which is what a lot of teams do? And if you don't, we saw Mbappe just rip past his man once on the left in a position that only Vinny usually does for us, and get that shot off in the first half, I think. So we see glimpses offensively. So I think the speed and the idea that those two will solve. I know Rodrigo actually had one of the best games of the attackers today, but even then, I think Vinny and Mbappe, we see just the speed, the moments where they'll solve most of it. Build up, I'm not so convinced though. I feel like most of our problem this game came back to the fact that even when we're like 1-1 or we're up 1-0, we don't get 30 pass sequences anymore. Like, what happened? They're gone. It's all end to end. The other team knows we can transition, so they sit a little deeper, so we can play with a little more space. We play all the ball to feet forward. We give it away. Our press is half-assed. They get it back. There's less of Cruz just gave us 30 minutes a game where that's not happening, where it's like, I don't care what you guys do. I don't care what our reputation is tactically, we're keeping the ball. And like, it's not about tiki-taka. It's just about imposing your will on the opposition. And like, that's one of the highest ways to do it. 30 pass sequences, really hard. Like if you've played soccer, like it's hard to pull off a 30 pass sequence on any level of the game, let alone like at the highest.
Great points. Great points. I agree with wholeheartedly with what you're saying here. With the offense, it is pretty jarring how little we've had of the ball in meaningful areas with full control over a sustained period this season. It really has not happened. Like there's been stretches, there's been a few waves. The second half start today was, in a good way, chaotic. But I think a lot of teams, if they're not going to approach it like Stuttgart, they're going to approach it differently and not allow you to make it chaos. I mean, at this point, we thrive in chaos. If it's chaotic and open, we should be thankful for that. But I think it's in other situations where we have to rely on slower build-up phases. That's where I'm worried, especially if Bellingham is on the field. This is a different conversation if at least Bellingham is on the field, and maybe you can integrate Goulet more to help with this stuff. But in Camavinga, but the thing is, when those players are not in the field, and even quite frankly, last season, even when Cruz was on the field, it wasn't perfect either, right? So you take out the key cog in this whole build-up phase. I don't like. It's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. How we can't just sit here like grown men every single podcast. Oh, we miss Tony Cruz. What are we gonna? Are we supposed to do this for the next 5-10 years? For the next 10 games? I'm wearing these Tony Cruz shirts like I'm sulking and crying on the podcast every day. At some point, like just have to like pretend he just doesn't exist. Like that's it. He's gone. He's not coming back.
We're not all the way into embarrassing territory yet for me. I know a lot of fans are really calling for Carlo's head right now. Like it's so funny how quickly it happens.
No, I'm not there. That's I look.
There's a lot of them are though.
Can I just interject really quickly? I don't think people really fully realize how different Real Madrid is going to be in a month or two, and definitely by spring. I don't like. We've seen this movie so many times before. Slow start, not acceptable, by the way. It's not excusable. We should be having way better starts to the season because that's part of the reason we haven't been able to retain a league title in God knows how long. I'm not excusing it, but I'm just saying like this team this is not the finished version of Real Madrid. So if anyone is at that stage of Carlo out, Mbappe was a bad signing, I'm too busy to do this for you, but please screenshot your own takes, your own reactionary takes, and just post it and send it to us. Send it to patreon.com/managing. Just DM it to us like, hey guys, this is my receipt. I apologize. Just do it in the springtime. This is like, just give it time. Still, we're still 6 games in.
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's the optimistic look, which is, no matter what happened at the start of the season, if you told me like September 17th, I knew we weren't going to be looking that good. Just with Cruz gone, Carlo isn't the coach where like because Cruz is gone, he'll set up like a bunch of detailed patterns. I knew that. The injury crisis is a lot worse than expected too. So whatever curve you got to give Carlo, you have to throw it at him now because everyone's out. Camavinga missing time hurts. We can't really run 4 midfield setups. I actually don't think we're going to look good in build up until we play a 4th player instead of Rodrigo. Maybe Endrick has to play and Mbappe and Vini contribute more in progression, or Camavinga plays instead of Rodrigo. I think no matter what he does well, the angles are too limiting for him. He's an attack-minded player, so like it's not always going to be a thing where he slows the game down. He's okay defensively, like he's good, but he's no Camavinga. So you get Camavinga, and you get a lot more players who are good at like just kind of resisting the press and running in circles between him, Fede, Jude. Really good at just twisting out of the press. So is Rodrigo. But again, like the angles he takes, it's all very vertical, starts in very advanced areas. So I think the diamond is when our build-up looks better. But I do think there's a world where this can get embarrassing, where like, with injuries, maybe the build-up doesn't look good for some more time, 6 to 7 weeks. The Clásico, we have to play well in that one. We probably have to win the Clásicos head-to-head this year. I think Barcelona will probably play at least as well as us against the rest of La Liga. I think we have to win those to win the league. So the world where it gets embarrassing is like, okay, you lost Cruz and you don't win trophies. It ends up being like 2 years ago. except there's no World Cup in between. We don't have that excuse now. It's just the injuries as an excuse, which is fine, but we're really deep too. And so if we finish second in La Liga, don't win the Champions League, and like build up his man all year, I think that is a little embarrassing look on our staff. And the problem is the injuries now. Like you have to grade him on a curve because everyone's out. And seeing Tchouaméni back, I was happy, not because like I want to see him play as much as I want to see the same. Like I just want to see everyone available. They need to play the same midfield again and again. Today I thought the big upgrade we saw in build-up was I think they realized they have to use Fede like way more as an outlet, like, or this won't work. Like Fede is good, but he's no Cruz. And I think they realized like let Tchouaméni be Cruz, let Fede be Fede. And
yeah,
we saw some of those like FIFA style sequences. You know, you ever do that in FIFA, Keon? You press R1 and X, and then like your passer makes the pass and runs. Fede's just
R1 and X is give and go, right?
Yeah, the give and goes. Fede was doing that with Carvajal a lot, and then we saw Rodrigo like drop and Fede run past him. We saw Jude try to play it to Fede. I thought that was one big upgrade. Now it's like, okay, get Tchouaméni really comfortable. Get everyone in receiver mode like they were with Cruz when Tchouaméni gets the ball. Get Tchouaméni dropping. Don't make him think. And it's hard because you saw for the pass for the goal, he's so vertical. You see why he wants to be vertical and aggressive because I feel like more than Cruz, he is very much like he plays a bit more like a Pirlo or someone where like he can circulate, but he likes surprising you with vertical passes. He's always been someone who likes looking forward and like in an aggressive way. Whereas Cruz, it's like he looks forward as more of the last resort. He's always just in a circulation mode. So it's tricky, but I think Tchouaméni needs more details, even though he made the pass for the goal. I think that's the big thing that needs upgrading.
Well, that your point about Fede being an outlet, this is why I was like not that excited about seeing Modric come in for Fede. Or sorry, Modric come in for Tchouaméni. Because then Fede just got pushed back to DM. That's just not Fede's strength at all. It's yes, he can defend, but you want him driving the ball forward. Like that's what he's best at. That's what he's really great at. His best position will always be as a right CM. That's his bread and butter. He can track back on the right wing, help Carvajal. He can bomb forward. He can do these great overloads. He can carry the ball. He can do everything in that position. When he's DM, he's chained. And I think you and I spoke. Then we spoke about this again after the Real Sociedad game. I think we did. So that's another thing. Again, like these are all just the dominoes of these injuries. The problem is like I don't know if you can actually sit here and really realistically just bank on the idea that one day everyone's going to be healthy. Because I don't even know if that's a realistic expectation. Oh, when everyone's going to be back. Cool. Let me know when that is. I don't know when that is. We got to see it.
And also, the whole, like, the Mendy thing gets worse by the game. I feel like just Cruz made him someone who wasn't a liability. I know he said this last show, but that also stood out today. I think Furland has just been neutered, and we need Tchouaméni to, like, just become Toni Kroos and just, like, start unlocking him again as soon as possible.
Did you know that Bayern won 9-2 today?
Against who?
Dinamo Zagreb.
Damn.
Also, Manchester United won 7-0 against Barnsley.
That's funny that United.
Is that a W for them?
I guess.
Have they bought some time now? Are they guys? Look at it. Look at the bright side. We're not Manchester United. We still haven't lost since last season, by the way.
Also, Barca have to play Bayern, so their good form is good news for us. Barca go to Bayern. I don't know if it's home or away, but they play Bayern in the Champions League. So we're rooting for Bayern in the fall.
Let's take some super chats because we got a bunch of super chats, and then I feel like we still haven't really scratched the surface of the game, and we're 40 minutes in. Let's try to close this out, okay? Let's get our Real Madrid remontada DNA in gear. Mr. Sushi says we miss Camavinga. I agree. Do you agree, Sid?
Oh yeah, we miss him a lot. We miss our guy who just dribbles past people and tackles people and cobra tackles. We miss him. It's just like the total physical like load on our midfield's high already, and it's all going to Fede, Jude, Tchouaméni. They need him. I miss him just aesthetically and everything. He's a unicorn.
And Corgiotti Bordoloy says, what's with Tchouaméni just walking around in the sequence that led to the corner from which Stuttgart scored? His ghosting led to 3 to 4 chances conceded. This has actually been a Tchouaméni thing. Even when he's playing at his best, he'll have like one of these in like a stellar performance, at least. I feel like there are, I don't know what it is with him, but he just has moments where he's not cognizant of like the urgency of the situation of him needing to get back in track runners. I've been asking for him to clean this up for years in my columns when I write about it. There's so many, you can dig these up. These are easy examples to find. Sagnik says, Keon, remember my super chat about Tchouaméni being a long-term center back some weeks ago? And if you will accept that, he better. Camavinga walks in. Tchouaméni so poor again.
I mean, he did get the pass to Rodrigo before the goal, though, that he laid off to Mbappe. But I don't know about long-term center back. The problem is that like most DMs in Europe still don't offer the package Tchouaméni brings. So like, if we want to push him to center back, there's so many other teams that would want him immediately. Man City, Arsenal, he would thrive pretty much for any big team. And I don't think he wants to play center back. I think he's too skilled. Like he's basically like a really luxurious center back, but still a really good DM. I just think the DM, he's like close enough to being a great DM that it won't happen. Like it's a harder skill set to play DM than center back, offensively especially. And he has really good vision. So I don't think it's as simple as Camavinga comes in and displaces him either, because Camavinga just approaches the game differently. He has improved so much ball retention wise, so there's a chance it happens, but I think there will always be uses for Tchouaméni. Like we need a 6. Like no one else can play the 6 on our team. Pure 6, like pure, not like a hybrid, kind of like Camavinga or Fede.
He's not going to transition to a center back permanently. There's no chance. But he does do well there. He has the tools. Yalim Yüksel Konus says, I don't know why I pronounce it that way. I think this is Turkish. I don't know why I just pretended to be Turkish for a second. But Yalim says, I cannot find the become a member button. Could you please guide me? I'm stumped. You know what, Yalim? I'm going to just throw it in the chat for you. The other way to do it, if you don't have the link and you're listening to this later, if you want to become a member, go to patreon.com/managingmadrid. And if you don't have Patreon in your country, you can just hit join underneath this video if you're on browser. And the other way is there's a memberships tab on this channel. By the way, it's called Managing Madrid now. The YouTube channel is called Managing Madrid and not Keon Sobhani, Real Madrid journalist. So you can just search Managing Madrid on YouTube, and then there's a memberships tab option. And this is what you get. Members only videos. Yesterday, Jose and I did actually a Stuttgart preview. By the way, we spoke about Stuttgart's goal scorer. Why is the name blanking on me now? Who scored the goal? You know what? It's right here. Undav. We spoke about him. He had a great season last season on loan, and then they signed him permanently. And he scored. We haven't even gotten to that part of the podcast yet, discussing the breakdown of some of those sequences. But Jose and I talked about Undav and a lot more, and why Stuttgart is actually going to give us a challenge, and they're not just some lucky Bundesliga team to be here. They're a very good team that finished ahead of Bayern Munich in the standings in the Bundesliga, just behind Bayer Leverkusen. They went undefeated against Bayer Leverkusen in 2 games last year. This is a very good team. That preview podcast is only for members, including a bunch of other future content, plus everything you see here. Members only, members only, members only, members only, members only, members only. Infinite archive you can choose from, and it will continually grow as we move forward. So make sure you get in on the action. We'd love to meet you on the inside. All right. Next super chat. Muad Chali says, we need to go back to the 4-4-2 to help with playing out of the press, keeping possession, and with defending transitions. Camavinga needed ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, that's my prediction for our. At this point, that's what I think our final lineup will be in big games this season. It's hard to say sometimes with Carlo because if the build-up looks bad there, then we have to go back to having another attacker with outlets. The build, I guess, yeah, that's my prediction with a hedge that like build-up may not look good at any point this season. I have to hedge on the side of that, like just from what I know about our team, our players, and the history of Carlo's career. I don't know if it's not guaranteed to look good, which is kind of scary.
I really don't believe that a formation change here and there is going to change that much. If it's a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, guess where Bellingham is going to be? Everywhere. Doesn't really matter. But like the thing is, I think right now, and look, it sucks that Rodrigo is going to be the fall guy on this in a lot of ways because of his name. You could definitely argue he was the best of the front three tonight between him, Mbappe, and Vinny. He's going to be the one taken off first in a game like this. And also just that if Camavinga is back, it might just revert back to a 4-3-3 with Camavinga in that role.
Yeah, I think mainly the 4-4-2 with Diamond would take some pressure off Jude in deeper areas. Just let him be him instead of right now. I feel like he has to be him, and he has to like kind of make up for Cruz's absence sometimes, kind of circulate. He can be freed to just be more of an attacker. But I personally think a formation change is the only thing that'll change this. In that it reminds me a bit of like 16-17 before Isco came into the lineup when Bale was like hurt, when Bale wasn't 100%, but he was playing. It never looked great in the 4-3-3 until the diamond came in. Like we never had enough control. The 30 pass sequences weren't enough, and then the diamond came in. Everything became more comfortable. But that was under a coach who was still a lot more preferring slow build-up. This is a coach who doesn't care as much, who just lets his players decide more. But that's why I think the formation will dictate it, because like I don't see him improving our possession just through coaching. I feel like he doesn't do that. Like I feel like he's not going to go. I think Davide is big on that, but he's also big on like week-to-week preparation. I don't know if they come back next week with like new plans for 30 pass sequences, unless they change formation. But yeah.
By the way, you mentioned Toni Kroos there. Speaking of Toni Kroos, Sagnik says, our every action is dynamic, no moment of pause. We should play a new game. We just take a shot every time we say we miss Kroos in the podcast. By the end of the podcast, we'll just be falling over.
Man, I'd be in the hospital by the end. But yeah, this there's nobody is playing against the press. Like this was something we did on a Real Deal pod episode. Mazin, one of the guests, mentioned like Fede, Chouameni, like they love, like if they press them, they love like going with it. Like they'll run away from the press, they'll drive the ball away from the press. Fede especially, same with Camavinga, and that's where Camavinga won't help because he's great at all that, but playing against the press, like when everyone's running at you, and then you take a touch in their direction, throw them off guard, and play the pass past all them all, like Cruz or Modric. That's just not happening right now. Everything is really rushed for sure. We're not going anywhere if it stays this way. I tell that's for sure. We're exerting a lot of energy to win these games. Like it's not as smooth as it used to be. Even last season, if it was close, it was smooth because we would just keep relentlessly pinging the ball into their third down the stretch. Right now, it's not. I agree, and nobody has pausa. It's just like I just expected a little more by now, and that's where I'm keeping my expectations low. But 6 weeks from now, if it stays like this, we might be in for a really bad season.
There's a lot to improve. You want to get to some Ancelotti post game quotes?
Sure.
Ancelotti says we're still trying to find our best version. We managed to do that at times. After about 20 minutes, we took control of the game until the 60th minute. And then after they equalized, we were able to find the strength to sacrifice ourselves and win an important game. Sounds a whole lot like we must suffer. He also said if anyone thinks that winning a Champions League game is easy, I don't remember a game that is won without suffering. We know very well what it's like to win a Champions League game with suffering. On Endrick, He says, I'm worried as I always am before and during a match because there are many things to think about. Endrick was brave because he had the last kick of the match. The best solution was to take advantage of the counterattack. It was 3 against 1. He did very well because the objective was to score a goal. He may have found the most complicated solution. That Endrick one, I was
The
like,
most complicated solution. Yeah, 40-yard, like fired in.
a great line. He found the most complicated solution. It
That's
was like
really funny.
option on your right, option on your left. I'm just going to shoot it from here. It was like what, 30 yards at least?
It was crazy. Like, to be honest, it's kind of absurd that that's his second goal in a Real Madrid shirt. Like, not many players would have the audacity to take that. Goulet, like maybe Bale would have, James, Cristiano, but like those are the kind of guys who would even have the audacity. Even James like didn't drive it and take shots from there. And on the ground too, he's not like. I think the funniest thing is like if Bale took that, you'd expect it to go like top corner. Even to someone like Messi, also a lot of the great left footers. I feel like, I mean, Messi has drilled it, but from that far, I don't know how many players drill it low. Like even his first goal, like these low drilled shots are pretty crazy.
So, look, man, I just wish I had 1/100th of the balls that this guy has. He's running a counterattack. It's one thing to run a counterattack if it's like me carrying the ball, Siddharth Ramsundar to my left, Matt Wiltsey to my right, and I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to let this one fly. He has Mbappe to his left and Vinny to his right. And he's like, you know what? I'm good. I got this. ISO, I got it. Congrats to Endrick. Where were we?
He's like the opposite of Rodrigo, like in profile. Like he doesn't really get involved as much. He's the other foot. He's not really a winger. Not really much of a dribbler, but he just shoots it wherever he gets it. Whereas Rodrigo dribbles, great. But like almost the better the dribble he makes, the shot won't come off after sometimes. Even today, I thought we saw some moments like that again. It's like, dude, the better, like, it's like the more people he beats before getting to the box, the more space he creates, the worse his decision is after. He always creates like absurd amounts of space out of nowhere. And he had some great moves today, but it's just funny. They're so different as players. Like Endrick is really not like anyone else on this squad, just the way he approaches the game at all.
Ancelotti also spoke. He says you have to choose your football identity. Sometimes you have to build from the back, or sometimes you have to play more vertical, more direct. And sometimes the responsibility is on the coach. He also says, because he was asked about the differences between this season and last season, he brings up the point that we kind of hinted on the podcast. He says, if I remember correctly, we beat Union Berlin 1-0 in the 98th minute in the first Champions League game, despite suffering. Nothing's changed. To win, you have to fight, compete, and suffer. This is a great quote. I haven't watched this one, so I don't know if he's saying it as a joke or what. But he was asked about Endrick getting married at the age of 18. And Ancelotti's response was, in these 2 days, he has shown himself to be very brave in every way. End quote. It's a great quote. Good luck to that.
Man.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, those are the things.
I think we have another super chat.
Yeah, we do. But one more quote from Endrick. He says, in the first play I had in this game, I passed it to Vinicius. And in the second play, everyone was changing. Vinny and Mbappe were on my sides. And I thought the best option was to shoot at goal. And it was a goal. Okay. So I want to leave. Okay, there's actually 2 more super chats that just came in. So just give me a sec. But I did want to just run through the notes really quick. Okay, this is something very minor, and maybe even to discuss it is very like El Chiringuito style, but that penalty kick that we had that got called off.
Rudiger, man, that was some good acting. Because like even though he didn't get kicked, you saw how he like reacted as though he got smacked. Like that was really well done. I was like, I didn't know you had that in you, Rudiger. I didn't know you were that good.
What was more interesting to me than the Rudiger acting was Vinny initially had the ball in his hand to take the penalty, and then Bellingham had the ball. So I was like, wasn't Bellingham going to shoot this? I'm actually surprised no one asked him in the press conference. Carlo.
Bellingham was gonna shoot it, right? I thought that was
Yeah, it looked like he was. So I was like, okay, now we got a 3-man penalty rotation. Interesting. Well, I don't know if it's just something
I
that
think
I
that's
took
fitting.
note of.
It's fitting because you have two of the best players in the world joined by another one, and we're really the one team where like you have like 5 guys, maybe not 5, but those 3 are definitely like in their own tier. So I think it's cool. It's the way I would have it.
The 1-0 Tchouameni's pass completely breaks Stuttgart's high line. We had that Stuttgart high line quite a bit in the first half. We could never find. We had one great pass Mendy had to Vinny over top, but we didn't exploit it enough. So that Tchouameni pass finally breaks it, goes to the defender who should have dealt with it much better. Rodrigo, great run. Mbappe scores the open goal. The one where Undaf scores the header, that should never have been. He should never have been left open. It was a set piece. We had everyone back. We had plenty of bodies there at the far post. It was Fede's man initially, but then he kind of just peels off him when it gets like half cleared, or it wasn't really cleared. It was still in the box, and then Undav was wide open. Mendy also doesn't react. What was the 2-1? Oh, Modric to Rudiger. Modric's set pieces have been. Yeah, his set pieces have been great.
That was such a soft goal, though. Like, wide open, Rudiger just dinks it. Doesn't even get contested. Good set piece, but also wonder what Stuttgart's doing. Set pieces are hard, though. I've realized. Like, I think the reason we're so bad on them is kind of the same reason we scored today. It's like, even if you're locked in, sometimes you make mistakes. And these guys are so good offensively, they just don't care, which might be a silly way to see it, but like they just don't care enough to go from 85th percentile to 95th percentile at set pieces. Maybe you'll save 20 to 30 chances a season, but you maybe save 5 goals, and they can just bang it in on the other end. They can just do what Endrick did, Imagine you're Endrick, and then Carlos like, come work on set piece defending. He's like, no, I'm just gonna shoot from 30 yards out. Like, let the defenders worry about it.
Dude, even when we had Ramos and Varane, like it was we could not defend set pieces. It was pretty bad.
Yep. I remember that one Clasico when Jeremy Mathieu headed it in 2015 April, because that year Barcelona had their set pieces down. Like they even had articles published about how they had a set piece coach on the sidelines, and they cooked us on set pieces that year. But yeah, this has always been a thing for sure. I guess one thing I'll say about the penalties, final thing, is I kind of liked it decentralized. I'd rather this than one attacker decide he wants to take all the free kicks for 10 years.
Sure. I have no issue with it, as so long as there's clarity before the moment arises. Like it's discussed pre-game. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like, oh, like who's taking it. Like if there's a Champions League final, as long as they've talked about it before the game, who's going to take it? That's what's more important to me.
This reminds me of Messi, Neymar, Suarez, with one exception. Those 3 had to start handing it to each other because they were missing it. If you remember, at one point, all 3 of them were missing. So they started handing it off like hot potato. Because but I hope this doesn't come to that. But similar vibes. Like they just kind of want to share the goals together.
One thing I noted about this game, and it's become progressively more obvious, that it's not as decongested as it was on the left side at the beginning of the season. You see Mbappe and Rodrigo on the right quite a bit now, and I think that's like a clear emphasis of like, let's decongest this a little bit. I don't know if that's something you picked up on or not. I mean, it could be just my eyes because I haven't looked at like I haven't. Maybe I should look at heat maps. That would be
Mbappe's been getting on sequences on the right for a few games now. So definitely seems like. Well, also just the stats through the first 4 games. Vinny was like racking up XA and not much XG. So I think you kind of want to give him more space so he can choose to shoot or pass. And also I think we've seen through these games, like you want Mbappe to receive it on the left like a few times, but Vinny is more dangerous 1v1 on the left. Mbappe can be, but that's not his primary role. It's just a question of intent. Vinny's the classic winger, so you kind of want to give him that zone. I think they realize like, let him take that zone. He's much more aggressive, just hunting the fullback one-on-one.
Let's. I'm going to call myself on it live on the call. We're about to find out if I was making it up or it was backed up by the heat maps. So here we'll look at it on the screen together. Yeah, Mbappe is more on this left half space. That's the bulk of his touches. I mean, he had a couple shots from here too. You can see it. Rodrigo definitely more on the right, no question. And Vinny most on the left. So yeah, I was right. So like you can see that there's more of a concerted effort now, it seems. Now I'd have to go back to each game to see what the heat maps are for each game.
No, Mbappe started going to the right half space. Like you remember that one run, Vinny outside of the boot, Jude went the run on the left, Mbappe was on the right. Yeah. They know.
There's been plenty of sequences like that. Yeah. Even against Real Sociedad. Yeah.
They know. They know that symmetry is not a meme. They know they can't stand wherever they want, but there's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating season tactically. I don't know how many teams in football history have had this type of evolution happen to them. You lose a great playmaker, you add a GOAT level forward in the same summer, while winning, while exceeding expectations. It's really interesting. It's like, even if we don't win everything, even if it's like a case of better team, worse season, it's just interesting for sure. I wasn't expecting to be so intrigued, but what else should I have expected? It's Real Madrid. We don't do tactics. We just lost our most tactically minded player, maybe.
Let's take a couple more super chats, then we're going to wrap it up. This one is from Zafri, who says, on Carlos' suffering quote, why do we have to suffer? We should control games with all of our talent, but we look labored and conservative in build-up. This is a great counter. Like, why do we have to? Why? So, like, why did we? Just because it's not changed from suffering against Union Berlin, is that a good thing? Maybe we shouldn't have suffered then or now. Maybe we should be doing better. I think the point overall from Carlo is like, no matter what you do, it's not going to be easy.
Yes, that was his point. And also, like, there are a few ways to skin the cat. You don't have to build up to look good, and you have to suffer no matter what you choose to do. But also this super chat is valid. You also can choose to do things better in a way where you suffer a little less.
Yeah.
And I mean, he hinted to it. I feel like he knows, I think he knows either he has to improve the build-up sequences or the defense needs to look like it did during the first 15 minutes of the second half. Just rock solid. Nobody gets a foot anywhere. Just rock solid defense. And then you hope your attackers do enough. But like right now, we're expending a lot of energy just going up and down with inefficiency. He knows, though. He knows. I think it's going to be either we get rock solid in the block and have an insane transition attack, or we start like possessing the ball more for sure.
Yeah.
Or that's what he's going to try. Whether it works is a different story.
All right. So we're going to end with a little bit of optimism and some feel-good vibes. So our main man, Anthony Starr, great pleasure meeting him. Says the managing Madrid community and the extensive content you've been putting out lately. Hala Madrid, nada más. Love it. Anthony, thank you, man. Appreciate you. It's nice to know that it's not all doom and gloom after Real Madrid don't play it particularly well, and still won, by the way, by 3-1. So yeah, this is a family. This is a brotherhood. Managing Madrid, we're all here for each other. Win or lose, therapy or celebration, we're a family. So thanks for the reminder, Anthony. You rock. Sid, thanks for chatting, buddy. Listeners, thank you so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow for members. Peace out.